Daily Wire report says, old school liberal investigative journalist Matt Taibbi told Ben Shapiro in this week's episode of Sunday Special that he lost friends for merely reviewing Matt Walsh on the Daily Wire's groundbreaking documentary, What is a Woman? We have a little bit of that clip from the Sunday Special. The whole conversation is well worth watching, by the way. You can go to Ben's YouTube page and see the whole thing. But here's that part of the discussion. Go ahead.
I had kind of tried to stay away from the issue. It's complicated. I try to avoid issues that I don't know a whole lot about. But I had done a couple of stories that touched on this basically from the speech angle. And I'd had a really unusual experience. I mean, I've been a reporter for 30 years now, and it's always the same method. You call around a whole bunch of people, you ask them all what they think, and then at the end, you kind of aggregate all the opinions and figure out where the story is. But with the trans issue, what I found is I would call some people and they would talk to me, and then there'd be this other group of people who would be furious that you even called, would refuse to have any kind of discussion, would call you a transphobe for even asking certain kinds of questions. And this is before you even have a point of view on the subject. So I thought that was odd. And then I had done an interview with a woman named Kara Dansky, who is a feminist, a gender-critical feminist. And it's not that I purposely shelved it. I just didn't want to deal with the blowback that I knew was going to come. I kept telling myself it wasn't the right time. So I felt guiltier and guiltier about that as time progressed. And when Matt's movie came out, when As a Woman came out, I realized I thought this was an opportunity to kind of fix that problem of having not run that interview. So I did both at once. I reviewed Matt's movie and ran that interview at the same time. And the response was unbelievable just for reviewing the movie. Forget about what I said about it. I lost friends over that. There were people who I've known for decades who have now basically said that I'm a transphobe, and I'm kind of out of their loop now.
Simply for acknowledging the existence of the film, he loses friends for that. So it actually takes. It shouldn't, but it takes real courage simply to acknowledge the existence of a film that the trans activists don't like. It takes actual courage, especially if you live kind of in the world that Matt Taibbi lives in, where you've got friends who are this, so you're going to actually sacrifice friends because of it. And also his write-up of the film, it was thoughtful, it was interesting. He praises some aspects of it. He does criticize other aspects of the film. I don't agree with his criticisms, obviously, but he does criticize it. So it's not like I wouldn't call it a glowing review necessarily. He just kind of talks about it. He writes about it and gives his take on it and all that. And that's what you're supposed to do, right? Especially if you're a film critic, that's what you're supposed to do. But I just went to Rotten Tomatoes just to check, because I hadn't checked in a while. And so we're up to over 5,000 audience ratings with a 97% score, which I can tell you, I'm a little biased, but that's impressive to have that high of a score. And still, now it's 4 critic reviews is what there are, as opposed to like most movies will have dozens, even over dozens and dozens of reviews. And these are not mainstream critic reviews. One is from Christian Toto, who writes for the Daily Wire. Another's from the Gospel Coalition. And then Film Threat, which is the closest thing to a mainstream critic reviewing the film. And then a website called synagogues.com. That's it. Those are the film critics who actually reviewed the film. All the mainstream critics, from the very beginning, made it very clear that we all agree. We're going to pretend this does not exist. But it does. You can go to whatisawoman.com and see for yourself. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel and click the notification button to get more content like this. If you want to watch or listen to the full show, head to dailywire.com and subscribe today. You can also listen to my podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.